Danielle folded her best blouse and placed it carefully in her bag. Her hands trembled a little. Today was the day. Her scholarship interview in New York, an Ivy League school, a chance to change everything. Her mum, Carolyn, stood at the kitchen counter, making tea, eyes darting between the clock and the window. She looked proud, but nervous too. "You have everything?" she asked, voice tight. "Almost," Danielle said, zipping up her small suitcase. "Just need my passport." From the hallway, Kelsey leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Her face was blank, calm. She watched her sister quietly. Danielle checked her desk drawer. Nothing. Her backpack, empty. Her closet shelf, still nothing. Her smile faded. "Mum, did you see my passport?" she asked, her voice rising. "It was in that folder last night, wasn't it?" Carolyn said, walking over. "The blue one. It's not there now," Danielle said, pulling papers out and spreading them across the bed. Kelsey stepped inside, moving slowly. "You sure you didn't drop it somewhere?" she asked. Danielle ignored her and dropped to her knees, checking under the bed, then the dresser, then the bathroom. Her breathing grew shallow. Panic was setting in. "I had it last night. I swear I did." Kelsey opened a drawer half-heartedly. "You're probably just overthinking. Try the kitchen." Danielle ran downstairs. Carolyn followed close behind. Drawers slammed, cushions tossed. Nothing. The clock ticked louder. Her flight was in a few hours. She needed to be at the airport now. "I don't understand. It was here," Danielle cried, voice cracking. Kelsey picked up a shoe and shook it like it might help. "Could it have fallen into the laundry or something?" "No," Danielle said, breathless, eyes wide. No. This isn't happening." She sat down on the floor, hands in her hair. Her shoulders shook. "I can't go. I'm going to miss it." Carolyn crouched beside her, holding her hand. "We'll call the board. Maybe they'll let you reschedule." Danielle didn't answer. She just kept whispering, "I had it right here." Behind them, Kelsey stood silently, her face unreadable. She looked at her sister for a moment, then turned away. Danielle had always been the quiet one. She didn't talk much, but people noticed her. Teachers praised her work. She got straight A's, always turned in homework early, and stayed after class to help others. She was kind, polite, and serious about her future. Her mother, Carolyn, often said, "Danielle's going places. She's got something special." Kelsey, just 1 year older, was different. She was loud, funny, and the kind of girl people noticed when she walked into a room. She had a bright smile, pretty eyes, and a way of making friends quickly. But behind that charm was someone who felt like she was being left behind. Kelsey used to be the one everyone talked about. As kids, it was always Kelsey this and Kelsey that. She was the first to ride a bike, the first to win a school prize, the first to sing on stage. Carolyn used to call her my little star. But everything changed when Danielle started growing up. Danielle began winning awards, getting perfect grades, and teachers started calling the house just to say how smart she was. Slowly, the attention shifted. Kelsey didn't like that feeling. She tried college after high school, but it didn't go well. She dropped out in her second year. Now she worked the morning shift at a small diner downtown. The pay wasn't great, and the hours were long. Each night she came home tired, smelling like coffee and grease. Meanwhile, Danielle was getting closer to her dreams. She stayed up late studying for exams, reading books on scholarships and interviews. Her room was full of flashcards, sticky notes, and books with titles like Winning the Interview and Scholarships That Change Lives. Carolyn worked part-time at a local bakery and picked up extra shifts whenever she could. Money was always tight. Some months, they barely managed rent, but Carolyn never complained, especially when it came to Danielle's education. "This scholarship could change everything," she would say. "It could open doors we never thought possible." Kelsey heard that often, too often. At night, when the house was quiet, Kelsey would lie in bed and stare at the ceiling. She wondered why everything felt so hard for her, but so easy for Danielle. She told herself it wasn't jealousy, just frustration. Sometimes she'd remember when their dad was still around. He left when Kelsey was 11 and Danielle was 10. One day, he said he had to go sort things out, and he never came back. Carolyn never talked much about it. She worked harder, held them tighter, and made sure they never went without food or school clothes. But the loss stayed with them. For a while, after their dad left, the three of them were close. Kelsey remembered holding Danielle's hand while they waited at the bus stop or whispering secrets under the blanket during storms. But over time, things shifted. Danielle grew into her quiet brilliance. Kelsey drifted into the background. Sometimes she made small jokes about Danielle's books or teased her about being Miss Perfect. Other times, she would borrow Danielle's clothes without asking or make fun of how serious she always was. Danielle mostly stayed quiet, brushing it off, but deep down, those little things added up. Kelsey didn't know when it started, but she began to feel invisible in her own home. Even when she tried to act like everything was fine, that feeling of being second best wouldn't go away. So when Danielle's big interview day came, the day everyone had been talking about, Kelsey stood at the doorway and watched. Her sister looked excited, nervous, full of hope. Their mum buzzed around, checking details, ironing Danielle's blouse, packing snacks for the airport. Kelsey said nothing, just smiled slightly. Inside, she felt small, and maybe, for just a moment, she wanted her sister to feel that way too. Danielle sat at the kitchen table, with her laptop open, eyes tired and red. She had been sending emails all day, begging, explaining, hoping. She called the scholarship board again. A calm woman on the other end said, "I'm so sorry, Danielle. The interviews are over. We can't make an exception." Danielle didn't know what to say. Her throat hurt from holding in her tears. After the call, she sat in silence. Carolyn stood nearby, confused and upset. "I don't understand," her mum said, folding her arms. "How could you lose something so important? Your passport was the one thing you needed." "I didn't lose it," Danielle said softly. "I had it. I know I had it." Carolyn looked away, disappointed. "Then where is it, Danielle? People don't just misplace their passport the night before a big trip." Danielle didn't reply. She had no answer, just an awful feeling in her chest. That night, Danielle was walking past the hallway when she heard Kelsey's voice coming from her bedroom. The door was half closed. Kelsey was on the phone with someone. "I swear, she actually cried," Kelsey said, laughing. "Like full breakdown, real tears. You should have seen her." Danielle stopped. Her heart dropped. She stepped back quietly and returned to her room, her mind spinning. Could Kelsey really have done it? The next afternoon, while Kelsey was out at work, Danielle stood in front of her sister's room. She hesitated, then slowly opened the door. The room was messy, clothes on the floor, empty coffee cups, makeup scattered across the dresser. Danielle started searching, drawer after drawer, under the bed, inside old shoeboxes, nothing. Then she noticed the bottom drawer of the dresser didn't slide all the way in. She pulled it out completely, and behind it, stuck with tape to the back wall, was her passport. Her hands started shaking. She held it like it might disappear again. Her breath caught in her throat. It was real. It had been here all along. She sat down on the bed, the passport in her lap. A wave of cold washed over her. She felt sick, angry, betrayed. Later that evening, Kelsey came home. Danielle waited by the door, holding the passport. "Why?" Danielle asked as soon as Kelsey walked in. Her voice was quiet, but full of pain. Kelsey looked at the passport and froze. Her face changed. "You went through my stuff? You hid it," Danielle said. "You let me miss the interview. You watched me cry and said nothing." Kelsey's eyes narrowed. "So what if I did?" Danielle stared at her. "Why would you do that to me? I needed this." Kelsey stepped forward, voice rising. "You always get everything, Danielle. The grades, the praise, Mum's attention, everything. For once, I wanted you to know what it's like to lose." Tears filled Danielle's eyes. "You could have just told me how you felt, but you chose to hurt me." Their voices grew louder. Carolyn walked in, holding a grocery bag. She froze at the sound. "What's going on?" she asked. Danielle turned toward her. "She hid my passport. She did it." Kelsey didn't deny it. She just stared at the floor. Carolyn's mouth opened, but no words came. The room fell silent. She looked at both her daughters, one filled with hurt, the other full of guilt, and she didn't know what to say. The house felt cold now, even when the sun was shining. No one laughed, no one talked much. Danielle stayed in her room most of the time, only coming out to eat or go to school. Even then, she barely looked anyone in the eye. Kelsey tried to act like things were normal, but nothing was normal anymore. She would walk past Danielle and mumble, "I didn't mean to," It was just a mistake, but Danielle didn't respond. Not once. At dinner, Carolyn would try to talk about small things, weather, school, work, but her words always fell flat. She looked at her daughters with tired eyes, feeling something had broken that might not be fixed. Danielle no longer studied like before. Her books sat untouched. Her room, once neat, was now full of scattered papers and clothes. She stopped going to school some days. When she did go, she sat in the back and didn't raise her hand like she used to. She felt like everything she worked for was wasted. Sometimes, at night, Danielle would lie awake remembering little things, like the time Kelsey wore her new dress without asking and spilled coffee on it, or when she told kids at school that Danielle still slept with a nightlight. At the time, Danielle had just rolled her eyes, telling herself it didn't matter, but now it did. She told her favorite teacher what happened. The teacher listened carefully and said, "You didn't deserve that. But you're not finished, Danielle. Apply again next year. People will see your worth." Those words helped a little, but not enough. Meanwhile, Kelsey was falling too. She had been showing up late at the diner, not focused, not smiling. Her boss warned her twice. On the third time he said, "I'm sorry, Kelsey. We have to let you go." She walked home in silence, hands deep in her coat pocket. She didn't cry. She just felt tired. One evening, the three of them sat in the living room. The silence was heavy. Kelsey picked at a thread on the couch. Danielle stared at her phone. Carolyn finally spoke. "There's something I need to tell you both." They looked up. "You're not full sisters," Carolyn said. Her voice was low, careful. "Kelsey, your father left when I was pregnant with Danielle. I didn't want either of you to feel different growing up, so I never said anything." The room froze. Kelsey blinked, confused. "Wait, what?" Danielle sat up straighter, her mouth slightly open. "I raised you both the same," Carolyn said. "You were so young. I thought it didn't matter, but maybe it does now." Kelsey's eyes narrowed. "So that's why you always loved her more." "No, Kelsey," Carolyn started, but Kelsey stood up, her face full of anger and pain. "She got everything, and now I know why." Carolyn shook her head. "It wasn't like that." Kelsey didn't answer. She walked to her room and slammed the door. Danielle sat still, the truth settling over her like a heavy blanket. It didn't make anything better. In fact, it only made the space between them feel wider. One quiet morning, Danielle opened her email and saw a message from a university she had once dreamed about. It was short and to the point. A student had dropped out, and there was a last-minute spot open for an interview, but they needed a sponsor letter right away, within 2 days. Her heart raced. This could be her second chance. She ran to tell Carolyn. They need a letter, fast. Someone who knows me and can speak about my character. I'll help, Carolyn said quickly. We can write it tonight. I'll make sure it's strong. They worked on it together, late into the evening. Carolyn typed carefully while Danielle spoke softly beside her, going over her achievements and goals. When it was done, they printed it out and placed it in a folder to scan and send the next morning. The next day, while Carolyn was at work and Danielle was at school, Kelsey walked past the kitchen table and saw the folder. She stood there for a long time, staring at it. Her fingers touched the edge of the paper inside. Without thinking too hard, she took the letter, made a copy on her laptop, and started typing a new version. It sounded nice, maybe too nice. She just wanted to help fix things, to undo some of the damage. At the bottom, she signed the letter, but she forgot one thing. She signed it with her own name, Kelsey Thompson. Later that afternoon, the university called Danielle. A kind-sounding woman said, "Hi, we received your sponsor letter, but it seems to be signed by your sister." Danielle froze. Her voice cracked. "I didn't send that. My mum was supposed to." After the call, Danielle went straight home. She walked through the door with the printed email in her hand. Kelsey was sitting on the couch, watching TV. Danielle stood in front of her. "You sent the letter?" Kelsey turned her head slowly. "I was just trying to help." Danielle shook her head. "You lied again. You sent a fake letter in my name, and you didn't even sign it right." Kelsey stood up. "I thought it would show them how much I believe in you. I was trying to do something good for once." "That's not how this works," Danielle said, her voice shaking. "You don't get to destroy something and then act like saving it makes us even." Carolyn came in at that moment, holding a grocery bag. She stopped when she saw their faces. "What's going on?" Danielle turned toward her. "She sent the sponsor letter." In her name, Carolyn's face fell. Kelsey looked from one to the other, her eyes filling with tears. "I didn't mean to make things worse. I hate who I've become. I hate what I did to her, but I didn't know how else to fix it." Danielle stared at her, eyes cold. "You didn't ruin my life, Kelsey. You just reminded me who I can't trust." That hurt more than shouting. Kelsey lowered her head. She walked to her room and packed a small bag. That night, without a word, she left the house. A few days after Kelsey left, Danielle sat at the kitchen table with her teacher and a school counselor. They had heard about the new interview chance and wanted to help. "We'll go over your essay again," the teacher said. This time, even stronger. The counselor helped Danielle practice interview questions. "You've been through a lot," she said gently. "That doesn't make you weak. It makes you real." Danielle worked hard, day and night. She rewrote her application, practiced her answers, and prepared herself. The day of the interview came. She wore a simple dress and held her folder tightly. Her hands shook a little, but her voice was steady. The questions were hard. They asked about her goals, her family, and how she overcame challenges. Danielle spoke from the heart. 2 weeks later, an email arrived. She had been accepted. She ran to Carolyn and showed her the screen. "You did it," Carolyn whispered, hugging her tightly. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Danielle smiled, a real smile. It had been a long time since she felt proud of herself. Meanwhile, Kelsey was working at a factory in another part of town. The work was tough. Her hands were often sore and the hours were long, but she showed up every day, quietly, without complaint. One night, she sat in her small room, holding a pen and a blank piece of paper. She started writing. It wasn't perfect. The words were messy, but they were honest. "I'm sorry, Danielle. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just want you to know that I regret everything, not just the passport, all of it. I was jealous and lost, but you didn't deserve what I did to you." She folded the paper and kept it in her bag for weeks. Then one afternoon, while visiting the house when no one was home, just to drop off some things for Carolyn, she walked into Danielle's room. She stood there for a moment, looking around. It was still neat, full of books and quiet colors. She opened a drawer and gently placed the letter inside. Weeks later, Danielle found it while cleaning. She sat on her bed, holding the note in her hands. Her eyes filled with tears as she read the shaky handwriting. She didn't cry from pain. It was something softer, but she didn't write back. She folded the letter, placed it back in the drawer, and looked out the window. She was moving forward now. She was healing. The airport was busy and loud, but Danielle felt calm. She stood near the gate with her backpack on and her acceptance letter folded neatly in her hand. Carolyn stood beside her, holding back tears. She smiled, but her eyes were full. "You've made it," she said softly. "I'm so proud of you." Danielle hugged her tightly. "Thank you for everything." They held each other for a moment longer. Then the speaker called Danielle's flight. It was time. Danielle took a deep breath and picked up her bag. She turned to walk toward the gate, then stopped for a second and looked back. Through the large windows, she saw the city where she had grown up. The same streets, the same sky, but everything felt different now. In her mind, a quiet voice spoke. "Sometimes, the people who hurt you the most are the ones who were hurting long before you ever knew." She didn't feel angry anymore. She didn't feel broken. She just felt ready. Danielle smiled softly, then turned and walked toward the plane. A new chapter was waiting. Thanks so much for sticking with the story till the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share with a friend, drop a comment, and hit that subscribe button for more. See you next time.